Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. I thought we'd take a look at what I consider to be a really good example of visuals and note-taking. I often get inspiration from the people who I work with, and tonight one of my students, we were trying to learn the difference between endothermic and exothermic reactions. Okay, so in preparing for the end of semester exam, the teacher wants them to know four aspects of endothermic and exothermic, being able to compare the two. The first is whether there's absorption or the release of heat. And these visuals here, they support that, right? You can see that the heat is going into, as in endo, into the ice, converting it or changing it into water and vapor. And here, with substances being burned or with fire, you can see that the heat is going out as an exothermic. You can also add like squiggly arrow lines in the description of release of heat or absorption of heat to show which way the heat is going, which way the energy is going. So that's just one piece of information, which direction the heat and energy are going, being absorbed or being released. The second one is a comparison of a graph. They specifically ask the student to be able to reproduce the graph. So just looking at a graph, and there's different types of graphs, I chose one with straight lines because it's much clearer than like a curved line. And what's important to notice here is that the reactants begin cool in endothermic reactions, and the products, they end warmer than the beginning. They have more energy in them than the beginning. The reactants begin, for exothermic, the reactants begin warmer, and they end cooler. So with ice in a hot room or subject to heat, the reactants, they begin with a lower amount of energy. And as the ice is melted, as the heat goes into the ice, the solid is converted into water and vapor, right? Energy is being absorbed, and the products are warmer, which is the third question, which is would the products feel hot or cold at the end of the reaction? Well, if you add heat to ice and you keep adding the heat long enough, it becomes hot, or at least room temperature, warmer than when you started. Same thing with fire. If you're burning something, whether that's iron or wood or cobalt or whatever, what have you, those reactants, they begin very hot, and as the product begins to, or as the substance begins to be consumed by the fire, the products are left, and those are naturally cooler. In this case, those are ash and smoke. And then those end cooler. The end product in the reaction is cooler. And those make up, let's see, the 1, 2, 3 examples that I really wanted to show you guys. But there's one more that I want you to keep in mind, because you might be asked, and it's a little bit tricky. And those are examples of endothermic and exothermic reactions which are slow. So for photosynthesis, the plant is absorbing the rays of the sun, right? So the heat, the energy is going into the plant. Endothermic. For exothermic, an example is glycolysis, and those two go together, right? Photosynthesis produces glucose, and then glycolysis converts glucose to ATP, to energy. So we have the reaction of glycolysis, glucose being split into pyruvic acid, and in the process ATP is given off. So that's energy being released from exothermic, right? Exothermic, energy being released. Another example is rust, the process of iron reacting with oxygen. And in that process, the iron is actually giving off heat. But in all three cases, in photosynthesis, glycolysis, and in rust, the movement of heat is so gradual, so slow that you can't feel it, you can't detect it. So slow examples. So if you put just a little bit of effort into your notes, start to get yourself a collection of colored pens or colored pencils, I think you'll be pleased with the results. It's much more much less abstract, much easier to relate to notes like these where you have drawings and you can see things very quickly, very easily. Of course, this is just one approach. My recommendation is that you always use at least 3 approaches when you study. So something like visuals would be one approach. A second approach might be quizzing yourself with fill in the blanks. A third approach might be like to create a matching quiz. Those would be three examples. The rules of 3 always apply. I'll do another video about that separately. Okay, I hope this was helpful to you guys. Good luck out there. If you need to reach me for tutoring, you can find me at compassionatelearning.net or you can DM me on Instagram here. Take care.